one federal lawsuit. The allegation is that the system that picked who got laid off was deliberately unfair.
And the system in question wasn't a committee, it was an algorithm.
I'm Mila.
I'm Milo, and this is AI Daily.
We're starting with that lawsuit against Meta, then a new AI chip out of Shanghai with a very ambitious roadmap.
And later, we'll look at the part of the AI ecosystem most people never see, the serverless GPU platforms that are quietly powering the next wave of applications. That's the one that reframes the rest of the market.
A group of Meta employees have filed a federal lawsuit alleging the company's use of AI and recent layoffs resulted in discrimination.
The complaint, filed in Northern California, claims that internal AI systems were used to help select employees for termination during the spring layoffs. The core of the allegation is that these systems disproportionately targeted workers with disabilities or those on protected leave.
This moves the conversation from a theoretical what if to a specific legal challenge. The question is no longer, could an AI be biased, but was this AI biased, and did it cause material harm?
And that's a difficult question to answer from the outside. An algorithm used for this kind of task would likely be a complex model weighing dozens of variables: performance reviews, role redundancy, project alignment, tenure. The plaintiffs argue the output of that model was discriminatory. Meta will likely argue the model was a tool to surface objective data.
But objective data can reflect historical biases. If past performance reviews, for example, have a history of penalizing people who take medical leave, an AI trained on that data might codify that bias at scale.
Exactly. It creates a black box problem inside an HR department. The suit effectively forces a discovery process that could, in theory, open that box up and scrutinize the data, the weighting of the variables, and the final outputs.
Saying the words AI-driven layoffs out loud doesn't make it sound any simpler. The open question now is what precedent this sets. Every company using algorithmic tools for HR is watching this case.
It's the legal system trying to establish the rules for a technology that's already been deployed.
Meanwhile, a Chinese startup named Dongfeng Xuanxin, or DFSX, just launched its first self-developed AI chip. It's called the DF1000.
The launch happened in Shanghai on Monday. DFSX didn't just announce one chip, they laid out a multi-year roadmap. A second-generation chip is planned for later this year, and a third version is slated for 2027.
That roadmap is the real story. It signals ambition. Creating one chip is hard enough. Planning for 3 successive generations suggests a long-term strategy to build a competitive alternative to Western hardware.
This is happening directly in the context of ongoing tech export controls from the US aimed at slowing China's progress in advanced semiconductors. A domestic chip like the DF1000 is a direct response to that pressure.
Right. It's an attempt to build a sovereign AI stack from the silicon up. We don't have public benchmarks to compare the DF1000 to, say, an NVIDIA H100, but for many domestic applications, good enough and, more importantly, available is what matters.
So the performance isn't the headline, the existence is the headline.
Precisely. It represents another key component of the AI supply chain being developed inside China, independent of Western suppliers. The question isn't whether the DF1000 can beat a Grace Hopper superchip in 2026.
The question is what the third-generation chip can do in 2027.
So we've talked about the application layer with Meta and the hardware layer with DFSX. For our third story, let's talk about the layer in between.
The plumbing, the part nobody thinks about until it breaks. There's a company called Fal.ai that represents a key piece of this.
Right. It's not a new model, it's not a new chip. It's a serverless GPU platform. In simple terms, it lets developers run complex AI models like Stable Diffusion or Whisper without having to manage any servers or infrastructure.
So it's like a utility company for AI inference. You just plug in and pay for what you use.
Exactly. For a long time, if you were a developer who wanted to build an app using a powerful open source model, you had a huge overhead problem. You had to lease expensive GPUs, configure them, manage the software environment. It was a significant barrier.
And platforms like Fal abstract all that away. You just make an API call.
And it's incredibly fast. The goal of these platforms is to get cold boot times down to milliseconds, so an application can feel instantaneous to an end user, even if it's running a massive model on the back end.
The surprising part is how critical this layer is becoming. While the big foundation model labs get all the headlines, the companies that make it cheap and easy to use those models are the ones enabling thousands of smaller AI products to be built.
It lowers the barrier to entry, which means more experimentation. The open question is what gets built. Does this infrastructure layer lead to a Cambrian explosion of useful AI tools? Or does it just make it easier to generate spam and deepfakes at an unprecedented scale?
The answer is probably both.
Also in AI today,
A new report suggests the market for AI and drug discovery could triple in the next 5 years as more pharmaceutical companies move from pilot programs to full-scale deployment.
researchers published a paper demonstrating a new technique for training robotic arms, using a combination of simulation and real-world reinforcement learning to dramatically reduce training time.
And finally, a coalition of open-source developers has released a new, fully open-source dataset for training translation models, aimed at improving performance for languages currently underserved by major commercial models.
So we have an algorithm being sued for its role in firing people.
We have a new piece of silicon designed to power a nation's AI ambitions.
And we have the invisible layer of code that connects everything together.
Just another Wednesday.
I'm Milo.
I'm Mila. This is AI Daily.